Welcome. The core yin postures in this yoga practice will include baby frog pose, and then both sides of the lateral bend called Side Sphinx, both sides of Shoelace Pose, and then finally Reclined Butterfly Pose. So some useful props, again, soft padding like blankets and pillows, but if you have them, a couple of blocks, maybe if you have yoga bolsters or couch cushions, have them handy. They may or may not be useful. Remember, you can always do the practice without any props or with a lot of props or a mixture of both. My intention for this yoga practice will be a cultivation of gratitude. The practice starts by finding a secure and stable seat. You can sit cross-legged like I'm sitting on the floor or up on a little bit of padding, which I'm doing. Or if this doesn't work for you, something that doesn't work, find a sitting position that does. Just have a little bit of space around your torso so that you have to slightly tone through your torso to keep your spine, your torso nice and long here. And then check in with your breath. Notice the gentle cycling of your breath, but also notice the points of contact between your body and what's touching what you're sitting on. So if you're sitting in a chair, you're noticing the contact points of your sits bones with the chair. You can maybe feel the bottoms of your feet touching the floor if you're sitting this way. And you're noticing the parts of your foot and your leg that touch the ground. This is creating a sense of rootedness. So you're sensing that you are connected to the ground, and that maybe creates a little bit of stability here. And as you're doing this, you can do other things like set your intention for practice, release the tension in your face, and maybe relax and release your shoulders to give your body, but more importantly your mind, this idea that it's about to practice. It's about to let go of all the day's worries. And that's kind of the focus of class today, is to focus on not what's going wrong, but what's going right here, and remembering that. We'll do a little bit of a Eastern Qigong breathing technique. It's more of a mental visualization and breathing here. So I call it that gathering energy breath. So extend your arms on both sides, palms face up near the ground. And then on your next inhale, make a big, nice, complete inhale and sweep your hands and your arms slowly up overhead on the inhale until they come together at the end of the inhale. And then as you exhale, draw the hands together, draw them slowly down in front of your head and your torso until they settle in pause at your low abdomen here. So this is considered your Eastern center, your Dantian or your Hara here. So this is where the energy resides. So another cycle, inhale, sweep your arms up. So you're gathering energy from the external world, all the good energy that you need here. And then you gather it and you settle it down on the exhale into your low abdomen. So instead of our head, our brain, our intellect being the center of the being, some Eastern philosophies believe that the center of our body is the seat of creation rather than the seat of intellects here. So a few more rounds of this gathering of energy. Nice long inhales. You can lengthen your torso out as you inhale, and then let everything settle, release, and relax as you bring your hands down on the exhale here. And you can think about as you do this, you can think about all the good energy you're still receiving from the external world. So the good stuff, the stuff that the title of this practice is what's still working, right? So all the energy that's still working for you, you're gathering that up. And it might be challenging to think of all of the stuff that's actually working for us, because we tend to take a lot of things for granted, and it's unconsciously just don't understand that that's helping us. And sometimes we need to pause and be still to understand some of the things that we really are benefiting from. Because we're so used to focusing on what's not working and what's wrong and what's broken. The idea is it's good to pause and to think about all the things that are working. You can just release and come back to your normal natural breath. We'll do a simple seated twist here. So maybe grow up tall again, bring your spine back to neutral, and then gently twist to the right. So the right arm comes behind you, maybe right hand on the ground, left arm across, left hand on maybe a thigh or a knee here. Grow up tall through your torso, and then twist on an exhale. You can keep your head and your neck neutral if your head and neck have any sensitivities. Otherwise, if your neck is feeling okay, maybe draw your head to look over that back shoulder as far as it goes. So you're trying to find and feel the stopping points along your torso, in your neck here. And just feel that for an inhalation and an exhalation. And then bring yourself back to center and go to the other side here. So twist to the left now. Stay here for a few breaths. Same procedure. Again, your head and neck can stay neutral. You can just twist through the torso as far as you go until you stop. This is your twist. This is what's working for you. This twist is not meant to be painful. So if you are in pain, then you need to back off a little bit here. You're just supposed to feel this, feel the pressure. You're not supposed to endure this here. And then bring yourself back to center. From here, we'll do a little bit of bridge cycling, a little bit of core and back work here. So invite yourself onto your back. And then knees bent, feet on the ground, about hip width apart. Bring your heels in fairly near your hips here. So your arms are extended out long on either side of your torso, resting on the ground. Head, neck, shoulders, your torso is neutral and comfortably resting here. And then we'll do a few cycles of lifting bridge here. So root through your feet, root through your shoulders here. And then inhale and begin to press your hips up towards the ceiling. So you have to engage the front of your legs and the back of your torso. Those are the muscles that are doing most of the work here. As you lift as high as you go. And don't worry if you don't go very high. Very slowly begin to lower yourself back down to the ground. So if you can do this with control here. And then when you get there, a resting breath. We'll do this a couple more times. So on your next inhale and slowly begin to try and lift yourself up as high as your hips go. See if they can go a little bit higher this time. Very gently on the exhale, lower everything back down. And once your low back makes it to the ground, a resting breath there. One more time, and this time we'll stay for a few breaths in bridge pose. So on inhale, lift your hips back up again, and then you can either just stay here, or if you want to, you can roll the heads of your arm bones underneath the backs of your shoulder blades and clasp your hands underneath your low back here, so that you're kind of balanced on the tops of your backs of your shoulders here. And maybe a couple more breaths here. Maybe you can move your hips up a little higher. Maybe they feel a little higher now that you've done that. And then at some point, release your hands, release your shoulders, and very gently lower yourself back down to the ground here. And then you can roll yourself over to one side, bring yourself up to seated. Now we'll do a little bit of balancing exercises. So this is all kind of a little bit of the yang warm-up before we get into the long-held yin postures there. We'll try, I call this kneeling half moon pose here. So we'll do this in stages. Do this slowly and deliberately so that you can find an appropriate edge or stopping point for you here. So for kneeling half moon, we start out in a nice stable table pose here. Hands feel rooted, knees feel rooted. And then take your left shin and move the left shin out at an angle to the left, so that you're pressing through that left knee and the top of your left foot here. So your body weight's going to root into that knee and that left foot. Root through the left hand and begin to rotate your torso to the right. Extend the right leg out, press the right foot into the ground so that it's roughly in line with your left knee and your left hand. Draw your hips slightly forward here a bit. See how this feels. So this is pretty wobbly. This is your kneeling half moon pose. You stay here. Your right hand can just rest on your hip here. This is feeling okay. Then see if you can slowly bring that right leg so that it's parallel to your torso. Right foot is flexed here. If that's feeling okay, then maybe raise the right arm up towards the ceiling. So this is balancing half moon. If you want an extra challenge, maybe look up towards that hand here. And then look down, bring the foot down, bring the hand down, come back to hands and knees. And we have the other side of this to do. So maybe you can see this better now. So the right shin comes up to the side at an angle to just give you better leverage and better balance here. Root through the right hand, turn your torso to the left, extend the left leg out, set the left foot down, and just come into this part of half moon. This might be where you stay. If your balance is feeling good and stable, try lifting that leg up, bring it parallel to your torso. If that feels okay, maybe bring the left arm up towards the ceiling. And if that feels okay, maybe look up towards the ceiling. And then the foot comes down, head looks down, hand comes down, come back to table. And just notice without criticism what you did in those poses. And notice how it felt. Those are called just general opening poses. Everything is open up and radiating out. So we'll get into the first yin posture. And the first yin posture, first yin posture is baby frog. Baby frog is wide-legged child's pose, or warrior four here. So you start out sitting back on your heels, maybe bring your knees about mat width or wider. Actually, the idea is you bring your knees as wide as they go for you. So you're going until you're feeling a stopping point between your knees here. And then you lower your torso forward, arms extend forward. And you can put as much padding underneath your knees as possible. In fact, for some of us, maybe we need to put a slight soft cloth behind the knees here. Another thing you can do is you can also put padding underneath your torso. So you can put a bolster or pillow, couch cushion, 2 bolsters underneath your torso here. So these are all generally good ideas for baby frog. So this is where we'll stay, and we'll stay here for roughly 3 minutes or so. A little bit more than 3 minutes here. Although you always can give yourself permission to come out. You're trying to find a good edge. You're trying to stay there for as long as you can. This gets into the mechanics of a yin practice. And you're trying to stay still. Now, if you're not feeling, you want to feel something. So if you're a really flexible person, you're not feeling much in baby frog, in wide-kneed child's pose, then I'd recommend full frog. And full frog is where you bring your shins out and parallel to each other. So you're moving the shins and the feet away from each other. And then you're lining your knees up with your hips and getting your knees as wide as possible. And usually this sets up a lot of, for most of us, a lot of sensation through our inner thighs here. You can stay up on straight arms or come down onto forearms. And you can put props, you can put more bolsters underneath your torso. If you're down on your forearms like this and you've just eaten a very heavy meal, this is a great posture to do for digestion, because your belly can just be nice and open and get a good hip stretch too here. But we'll continue with baby frog here. We're about halfway through this pose here. And like I said, so we've been here for about 2 minutes. We'll maybe stay here for about another minute. I'll remind you of the 3 mechanics of a yin practice. The first one is find your edge. So your edge is something that works for you. If it's not working for you, if it's causing injury or trauma, that's not doing you, it's not useful to you. And so you need to experiment and explore until you find something that's useful, so that's actually working for you, that's still good here. Second principle is, once you've found that space, that place where you've stopped and you're feeling something, now you just want to reside there. And let it be okay to just exist. This is challenging in our day and age of being human doings. It's kind of a weird concept to just let it be okay to just pause. That's what we're doing, is we're pausing. And then we're staying for time. Time is the third element here. We're here for about 4 more breaths, if that's okay. You need to go through and you need to do this little systems check. It's like, are the stopping points still acceptable? Are they still working here? And if they are, then maybe cultivate a sense of acceptance and excitement even for how this is feeling. It's like, wow, I don't think I'm hurting myself, so maybe this is okay. This is fine here. So maybe 1 more breath here. And then to come out, slowly come out. If you were using props, maybe remove the props. I'm going to suggest something rather yang as a counter pose to this here. I'm going to suggest bringing yourself up onto hands and knees, come into table. And then if you want to, you can come up into this yang posture known as downward facing dog. So hands are rooted, arms are extended. Press your hips up towards the ceiling, legs are extended here. And as you root through your hands and your feet, go long through your torso here. And then slowly walk your hands back to come to a full standing forward fold. You know, this is ragdoll here. So knees can be bent if they need to be. And the torso is relaxed. You can just kind of clasp opposite elbows and maybe nod your head yes and shake your head no, and maybe a couple more breaths here. And then when you're feeling ready to come out of this, just bend your knees and put your hands on the ground. Bring yourself back to the floor. And we'll move on to the next yin posture. The next yin posture is a lateral bend that is called Side Sphinx. So I want to go through a few options here. So it's a lateral bend, and it pressurizes your shoulder. So if I demonstrate this, it's basically this posture. So for the right side, I basically lean on my shoulder, my forearm is bent, my elbow's on the ground, my upper arm is straight up and down. And then I'm just kind of resting my torso weight through that upper arm. So you can realize instantly that this shoulder's under a lot of pressure. That's part of the posture, is to just pressurize all the connective tissue, all the bone and the ligament in the shoulder area. So if you have an injured shoulder, probably not a good idea to do. Banana will be an alternative, and I'll demonstrate that in a minute. Some other alternatives for this, if you're feeling wobbly here, so we're trying to relax muscles here. To relax muscles, put the left hand in front, just so that you don't fall forward. You can bend that top left leg, put the left foot on the ground so that you don't fall backwards. That way you can just kind of stabilize yourself so that you can feel the pressures in your torso as it's laterally bending. Head and neck can be released like this. That hurts. You can always just keep your head and your neck up. We won't spend too much time here. We're only going to spend about 2 minutes, but let me demonstrate some other variations. If you want to do the lateral bend, but you don't like the shoulder pressure, and you happen to have a big giant prop like this, then you stuff the prop underneath your upper torso so that you can release the arm and the shoulder. You can just do Side Sphinx like this here, but that's if you have a big prop like this. If you don't feel much doing this Side Sphinx, you can do Side Seal. And Side Seal is lengthen the arm, lock off the elbow so you're transmitting the weight through the bones, your torso weight through the bones here. So that's a more extreme alternative. And again, if this shoulder is just not working for any of this, you can do banana pose. So for banana pose, you lay on the ground, hips are square and level, and then you walk your legs over to the right side, your torso over to the right, so you're opening up through the left side here. Do your version of banana pose instead here. And that way you can adjust how much pressure that shoulder is feeling if you have a sensitive shoulder here. So, having said all of that, we'll start the clock here at about 2 minutes in your version of Side Sphinx. Whatever one of those you think is going to work for you here. And then settle and breathe and just notice the sensations here. So the title of this yin practice is What's Still Working? And it's meant to be a reflection of gratitude, because it is human nature for us to constantly think about all of the problems in our lives, the things that are not working, to the point where we get enthralled and consumed and over-focused with all the things that aren't working. And the answer is there's probably still a lot of things that are still beneficial, that are working for us. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be around. We wouldn't even be alive to worry about all the things that are broken. So this is a time. So yoga practice is a time to stop and to reflect on what still works. It's like, what do we have in our lives? And this could be challenging because, again, we have a tendency to focus so much for so long on all the negative stuff in our lives that we have forgotten about all the stuff that still works for us. And you can start with really, really basic stuff. You can start with, you have a floor underneath you that's supporting you. You have something underneath you that you're laying on right now, that you're using as your ultimate support. The floor is actually a yoga prop. I have a floor here, that's a prop, and it's a very useful prop, so it's working for me, this floor here. All right, this is about all we're going to spend in Side Sphinx. So Side Sphinx, side seal, slowly come out, maybe lay on the ground. If the shoulder is really, really kind of upset, maybe do a little bit of work motion with the shoulder to kind of work out the kinks. But what we're going to do is just do the other side of Side Sphinx. Just because this shoulder gets a break, now it's the other shoulder that gets pressurized. But again, if both of your shoulders are injured, then probably want to do the other side of the banana pose. So, other side of Sphinx, or again, if you're wanting to challenge yourself, if you have really strong shoulders, then maybe side seal on this side. To just and then relax the muscle fiber so that all that pressure in the shoulder and the arm goes into the bones and the ligaments and the connective tissue here. Otherwise, for most of us, side Sphinx will work. And again, we'll stay here just 2 minutes. Again, 2 minutes is fairly reasonable in yin, but still a long hold compared to kind of a normal yoga practice here. Notice your breath. Maybe notice that that's still working for you. Notice the sensations, the ones that are manageable. You know, we get frustrated in those sensations because we think we're stuck. We're stuck in those sensations. They're actually bringing us attention to the parts of our body that are under traction, and that draws our mind to that place. And that's a good thing. We can actually cultivate gratitude. It's like, here's something that's under pressure. It's a real part of me. It's still working for me. even though I might be frustrated with it because it feels like I'm stuck here and I would like to go deeper. But, you know, there's nothing wrong with your body as it is right now. It's still working. It's still working for you. There's maybe things you want to change about it, and we over-focus on those things we want to change. And the answer is it's all still working. What are the other basic things that we take for granted that are still working for us? Gravity. So we got the floor that holds us up. It's nice to have gravity that pulls us down so we don't just kind of float away here. So we can be grateful for gravity, even though that seems like a weird thing. But gravity's working for us. Gravity is working for us. It's still working here. About water. Have some kind of clean liquid to drink so that we can have the water that we need to do all the transport inside our body. There's a basic thing that's still working for us. The air we breathe here. The sunlight, the warmth of the sun, the calming effect of the moon, the cool light of the moon. All these really, really basic things that we can easily spend our life ignoring. So just one more breath here, and then we're coming out of Side Sphinx. So slowly lower yourself down, release that shoulder here. Again, if you need a little bit of shoulder movement, go ahead and do that here. A little bit of other movement. Otherwise, bring yourself back up. You can roll your shoulders up a bit, and we'll get set up for a little bit longer yin posture. So both sides of shoelace. So the first side of shoelace. Bend your left knee, bring it underneath your right leg, and draw that left heel on the outside of your right hip. Bend the left knee and see if you can stack it on top, or right knee and stack it on top of the left knee. They don't have to be perfectly stacked. This is kind of making the general shape. And then if you're feeling this is meant to get into the hips, so if you're feeling this as sharp biting, burning pain in the knees, it's not a good sign here. You can maybe mitigate it a little bit with some padding under. If it's this knee, then you pad that knee. If it's the upper knee, then you put some padding underneath that upper leg. If that helps. If it doesn't help, then an alternative is eye of the needle. And so you make your way down onto your back. Bend both knees. Put the right ankle on the left thigh. Right knee is bent and out wide. You can keep the left foot on the floor, or you can draw the left thigh in. Clasp behind the left thigh or the left shin. Here. This gets into roughly the same regions of the hip as shoelace does, but your spine is nice and neutral. And you can control that pressure a little bit more, whereas here, you kind of have to just go with whatever pressure you're feeling. You can also sit up on some padding if you need to. I find shoelace works better for me when I'm just right on the floor here. Now you can stay seated upright with a nice neutral spine if you're feeling lots in your hips already, and that's all you want is the hip opener. If you want to add a forward fold to this, then slowly begin to fold forward. Since this is yin, relax the muscles in your torso and let your spine naturally round until it stops. Now, if it kind of stops in mid-air and this all feels really, really uncomfortable and you want some support, again, find a bolster. I guess I'm grabbing the pillow here, which feels good too. Or you can just hang in mid-air, or you might actually just rest on the top of your legs here. So notice where you end up if you want to do the forward fold. And here we stay. We're going to stay for this will be back to about a little more than 3 minutes rather than 2. So we just stayed in 2 minutes in Side Sphinx just to help with, just in case we had a sensitive shoulder. That can be a pretty intense pose. But I'm going to stay here for a little bit longer. I'll stay here for a little more than 3 minutes. Again, you're continuing to pay attention to your own sensations. And you give yourself permission to come out if those sensations stop working for you. So if the sensations, if you're at your edge, it's all working for you. It's still working for you. If it's causing harm or pain or desperation, It's not working for you anymore. You're not at a good edge. So you either need to adjust things or you need to come out here. And so that's a wise practice. That's a practice of gratitude because you're trying to do something helpful for your body. Maybe it is kind of obvious that harming your body is not terribly helpful, so it's not working for you. So if you are experiencing pain, yeah, it's best to do something about it. If you're not experiencing pain, then you're experiencing you, and if you don't do that very often, it can feel a little bit awkward and uncomfortable and at first. But if you cultivate an attitude of acceptance and of gratitude, it's like, wow, this is me, and just like water and sunlight and earth underneath me, it's like it's good to be here. It's good to be part of what is working, what's working in life here. It's about another minute here on this side. Check in with your breath again. See if you need to make an adjustment. Maybe you were folding forward and now you're done with that, so you sit back up. Or maybe you were sitting up and you decided, now I want to do a little bit of a forward fold. So you can make adjustments, or maybe you feel this place you've never felt before. It's not painful, but it's new to you. If that's the case, it's working. It's working in that you're feeling your being. You're getting to know yourself a little better. That's working for you. So maybe just one more breath here. If you folded forward, slowly bring yourself up. You can maybe shift your torso back, bring your hands behind you to support your torso. And that might be easier to undo the shoelace legs. And then you can bob your knees up and down. You can point and flex your feet a few times. Point and flex, point and flex. You can wiggle around, do some side bends. We've got the other side of shoelace to do. So you can either do that or the other side of eye of the needle. This time it's the right leg that's on the bottom. So right knee bends, right heel's on the left side of your hip. Left leg stacks on top of the right here. And again, options here. You can stay here, pad knees as much as you need to so that the emphasis is in the hips rather than the knees. And then either just sit nice right here or add the forward fold. If you want to add the forward fold here. Again, any amount. And again, if you have padding available and you want the padding, maybe you want something for your head and your neck here. So maybe a block would be nice to rest your head on. And you can do that. Here are lots of ideas. So a while back I watched a movie. It was a movie made about the moon space flight Apollo 13, and the Apollo 13 space flight was about one of the missions to the moon back in the early 70s, and it was a mission that didn't work. So they had serious issues on it, and they didn't make it to landing on the moon. They barely made it about round and back with their life, and so the movie was about their trials and their tribulations of barely making it back with their lives and missing out on landing on the moon because they had one of their oxygen tanks on their spacecraft exploded. And during the highlight of the movie, when this was happening, men were in the spacecraft, their oxygen tank blew up and kind of destroyed about a third of the spacecraft. Everything was failing and broken, they and all the ground support crew, they were all going crazy and nuts over what's broken, what's not working, what's not functional anymore, and they're all just kind of overwhelming each other with all the problems that are happening. And so the flight control director, he finally just paused and he was just thinking, and it was kind of a good moment in the movie. I don't know if this happened in reality, but the flight director had everybody quiet down, and he said, okay, he said, I want everyone to tell me, what do we have on the spacecraft that's still good? In other words, he was saying, for a moment, let's not focus on everything that's broken right now. Let's focus on what we still have, what's still good, what's still working on the spacecraft. And I thought, oh, this is good yoga stuff. Because this is exactly what we do in our own lives, is we go around and we get overwhelmed with all the things that are breaking, with all the things that are not working. And it's healthy. It's a good, healthful habit to pause, to take a break, to stand back and to say, okay, what do I have that's still good? What's still working? And what I realized is this is, when we do that, that's gratitude. That's gratitude to realize it's like, oh, there is still things in my life that are positive and that are helping, that are aiding and helping me in my life, if only I stop and pay attention. So one more breath here on this side of shoelace. And then go ahead and slowly bring yourself up. Slowly extend your legs out. You can make motions with the legs. I love windshield wipers after a hip opener like that. So you can bend your knees, put your feet on the floor, feet wide, and then gently sweep both knees to one side, bring them back up, sweep them to the other side, and then maybe however many cycles of this that you like to do here, just to kind of release the reverberation in the hip sockets here. And then from here we'll set up for the next chin posture. So this is Reclined Butterfly. I would like to do a little bit of a restorative version, and that requires some props, but some modifications are doing this with no props or even more props here. So if you have a block and a bolster, then make a ramp with those two items. Put the block somewhere and then put the bolster long ways on the block to make this ramp, and you're just going to lie back on the bolster. So you'll sit with your low back seated against the bolster. You'll make butterfly legs. So knees are bent, feet are together, knees are out to either side, and you can put as much padding under one or both knees as you need to. Heels are as far or as close in as you want them. So if you like your heels being in close, they can be in close, or they can be pretty far away from your hips as well. And then you just slowly lay back on the bolster ramp here. Arms extended far enough from your waist so your palms can face up and your shoulders can roll out and ooze down either side of the bolster. So this is the variation that I'm thinking of to practice here. But there's a couple other variations that you can try here. So if you have no props, then you can just do this with no props. So you can take the bolsters away and just do reclined butterfly here without any props, if this fits your body here. And then we'll stay here for a while. Now, if you're wanting something a little bit more intense for the upper back, and you have a couple of yoga blocks, then my suggestion is to do kind of a hard opening, and you'll need 2 blocks. So the first, just the hard block goes underneath your upper torso, underneath your shoulder blades here. So you're creating a back bend and you're pressurizing your upper spine here. And then the other block you use as a support just for your head and your neck here. So this is the same as the bolster. It's a little bit more intense because the blocks kind of really press into a certain area of your spine here. But if you're wanting something more intense, this is a nice variation too. Otherwise, if you can make the bolster, if you have enough materials, props to make the bolster ramp, then my suggestion is stay here in the bolster ramp, and we'll stay here for a little bit longer still. So instead of 3 minutes, we're going to settle here for about 4 minutes here. So find your version of this. It can have a lot of sensation going on or just a very subtle sensation. The idea is let time be the factor. Let time just soak into this pose. So everything relaxed as much as it can be. Bring your focus to those places that still have tension and see if you can release them. And then this is maybe where you have some time to think about what's still working. What's still working? What am I grateful for that I still have going on in my practice? Like what parts of my body feel good? What parts of my body still seem to be functioning? Right? What still works? And so maybe do a body scan. This is where you do a body scan. Start with the top of your head, work your way down. Do a little mental handshake with each area of your body. It's like, hi, how are you doing? Are you still working? Chances are what you'll find is a lot of your body, a lot of your mind and sensations still working. Are you still breathing here? Is that still working? Feel your blood circulation. Can you feel your heartbeat and the blood flow and the heat that's generated by that flow of blood? Is that still working? Is your mind still generating thoughts? Is that still working? Oh, that's a complicated one because we often get frustrated by our thought process, particularly if it's unsettled and raging like a tempest. And yet, that's the job of our brain. The job of our brain is to continually generate thoughts so that we can use those thoughts to help us safely navigate through a yoga practice, through our lives. And so it's not necessarily a bad thing to have these thoughts, to have our thoughts going on. It's something that's still working. Sometimes it's a little bit too over busy, but it's still working. The sensations in the torso, and the legs and the arms, are they still working? Are they in pain? If they're in pain, it's not working for you. You're not at your edge anymore, but you're not in pain. You're just feeling a stopping point, some traction. That's still working for you. All those trillions upon trillions of cells that make up your physical being. They're still a team. They're still working with each other to be you, all of them, including the neurons that make up your thoughts. So four more breaths here. Allow yourself to continue to make that mental list of the things in your life that are still working for you. Dig down deep, think hard. This requires mental focus, which is a part of yoga. Think. It might be challenging. What could they be? And then when you think of one. Hold that thought for just a moment. And then when you're ready to come out of this pose, maybe bring your knees back together. Maybe even take your hands, use your hands and your arms to help. And you can extend your legs out long. You can kind of move your legs around here. You can roll over to one side if you're using the prop, and then bring yourself up to sitting to remove the props off of your yoga mat. And then we're going to come right back down onto our backs here just for a final twist before resting pose here. So come down onto your back again, bend your knees, draw your knees into your torso, give your knees a nice hug, and maybe thank your knees. There's maybe something that might still be working for you, or maybe not. You know, or maybe the things around your knees are still working, but a nice hug for the knees here. And then gently lower your knees over to the right. You can guide them over with your right hand. Left arm extends out into a T position. Left shoulder is trying to ooze back towards the ground to create a spinal twist here. If it's okay with your head and your neck, you can look left here. And then a couple breaths here. And just feel what this twist, this shape feels like here. And then gently draw your knees back up to center, and then slowly allow them to lower over to the left side. Right hand extends right. Look right if it's okay with your neck. Right shoulder oozing back towards the ground. Stay here, one more breath. And then bring yourself all the way back up, give your knees one final hug. And then free-form yoga for the next few moments. If there's any final postures, movements, motions that you would like to do to kind of work out kinks, then go ahead and do those. And then settle into your resting pose. I'll just going to settle here in traditional Shavasana, arms and legs extended on the floor. Back of your torso nice and neutral. This is a good time to kind of wiggle around, find a place where everything is comfortable here. Everything is neutral. And then go back to this feeling of the contact points that each part of your body makes with the ground. So the parts of your feet, your legs, and back of your hips, and your torso, your shoulders, your rib cage, the parts of your arms and your hands and your head that contact the floor here. Notice that. And then begin to soften your face. Release your jaw. Relax your tongue. Soften the entire inside of your mouth. Soften your gums and your teeth. Soften the skin around the outside of your mouth. Soften your cheeks and your chin. The skin around your left ear, the skin around your right ear. Release your nose. Release the muscles that ring your eyes, around your eyes and your eye sockets. Your left eye socket, soften your right eye socket. The space in between your eyes, known as the third eye. Temples, forehead, crown of your head. Soften and release your thoughts. Let them be fuzzy and defocused. Continue to soften down through your shoulders, your collarbones, your right arm, right palm, right fingers, left arm, left palm, and left fingers. Notice your fingertips. Notice if you feel a sense of energy, tips of your fingers. Release your torso, your rib cage, your abdomen. Soften down through your hips, your thighs and knees, the fronts and backs of your lower legs, your ankles and heels, and bottoms and tops of your feet. All of your toes on both feet. Left foot and right foot. See if you can notice the tips of your toes. of those things that you can feel and notice still working for you. Release, relax, and surrender your body, mind 100%. And notice finally that you, your true self, the self with the capital S, all that you are, is still working for you. Slowly begin to bring yourself back. Deepen your breath. Start to begin to make little movements with fingers, toes, hands and with feet, arms with legs. Gently rock your head slightly from side to side. Begin to wake up your being. And at some point, gently bend both knees and roll onto one side. When you get there, pause there and cultivate some deep gratitude for your practice, for your efforts, things that are useful to you. But most importantly, cultivate a deep sense of gratitude for you, your true self, your unique manifestation in this universe. The universe is ecstatically grateful that you are here. And then when you're ready, bring yourself up to a comfortable seat. Notice those contact points as you find that seat, and then draw your hands together in front of your heart. I'll end practice with an Om. The inner light in me is grateful for the inner light in you. Namaste.